Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in to today's Candid conversation. I'm extremely excited about today's show because we have Martin Olczyk, based out of Turin, Italy, joining us. He's the managing director of Techstars Turin, and we're going to talk about the ecosystem as well as the current environment of Italian startups today's times. Martin, welcome.
Thank you, Mark. Good to see you. Thanks for inviting me.
How are you today? How's it going?
I'm very well, thank you. It's summertime and I'm pretty happy.
Yeah. I mean, when I looked at your profile earlier, I thought, wow, this is very impressive. I mean, you've seen a lot of ecosystems around the world. You worked in Amsterdam, you worked in Berlin, you're in Turin now. Maybe just, give our audience a quick overview of your last milestones in your career in the last couple of years. That would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do so. So yeah, Martin Olczyk, as you said, managing director at Techstars since 2018. Before starting the program in Turin in 2019, I worked at Techstars in Amsterdam and Berlin. Before joining Techstars, I was an entrepreneur myself. So I created 4 companies, had 1 exit, 1 failure, bootstrapped 2 companies between Germany, Asia, and the US. So I lived in Southeast Asia for a couple of years, started a business in Munich, become an angel investor, exiting my business. And yeah, I got in touch with Techstars. Love what we do, helping companies to avoid mistakes I have done, share learnings with them. And yeah, since then I invested in more than 50 companies with Techstars, plus some angel investments. And yeah, this is what I have done so far.
Really interesting profile. Thank you so much for joining us today. For us, it's always interesting to hear from people who have been in different ecosystems and different environments, because you have probably one of the best overviews of what Turin is about. And I'd love to hear from you, looking at Berlin, Amsterdam, some of the more mature ecosystems in Europe. How do you see Turin at the moment, and how do you see its development in the last couple of years?
Yeah, good question. So I can honestly tell you, when I was asked to launch Techstars in Torino, I didn't expect much. So as you said, Amsterdam, Berlin, very mature ecosystems. I have seen Berlin raising. I was there 10 years ago from also a very early ecosystem, becoming probably one of the top 2 or even top 1, number 1 ecosystem in Europe. So I didn't expect that much. It's just like a city I have never been before too. It was, of course, known for a couple of companies like Stellantis. As a mobility fan, I knew the industry, and of course you hear the name, but I never visited the city. And I have to say that looking back, the success of the program and our companies especially, so we made now 35 investments there, went beyond expectations. So it was a challenge for me to, let's say, start it from scratch. Again, not speaking the language, of course, knowing the Italian culture a bit, and loving food and weather and Italian people, but not really being close to the ecosystem, honestly. It was exciting, it was challenging, and looking back, I think we've done an amazing job by really creating a fantastic and successful program. Of course, with the support of our 3 partners, which I would like to mention quickly. It's Compagnia di San Paolo, Fondazione CRT, and Intesa San Paolo Innovation Center, who helped us with the local environment, who helped us really heavily with connecting us with startups, investors, other corporates, and they're really making this success story great from day one. So just to sum it up, again, being in a very ecosystem, I came there with not many expectations, but now I don't want to move on. It's amazing. People are super open, super friendly. Again, comparing it to more mature ecosystems where people are, I wouldn't say fed up with startups, but if you knock the doors at large companies, it's easier to get in touch with. Italy is welcoming us and all our companies with open hands. People are super interested in innovation. The country itself, not only Turin, is changing. Everything is being digitized. The industry is moving from the earlier pillars of the Italian industry, hospitality or manufacturing, to digital products, and it's an exciting moment to be in Italy.
Thank you so much. That's really good to hear. And I mean, this is core to our mission, right? Not only with this conversation, but in general, we're always trying to shine a light on what is happening outside of the top hubs in the world and in Europe. And, you know, I'm oftentimes blown away by, you know, when you look under the hood, all the amazing stuff that's going on in innovation and investment, et cetera. So it's really also happening in Turin, and that's so great to hear. When you look at the industry, the industrial fabric in Turin and how the startup ecosystem builds on top of it, you mentioned a few key areas, but are there any specific highlights that you see? Because it's so important now that industry and, you know, the innovators are working hand in hand to basically bring industrial expertise into the ecosystem.
Yeah, so when we started, we were pretty lucky because one of our partners built Italy's largest innovation hub in Turin, which is Officina Grandi Riparazione, an amazing space with, I think, 12,000 square meters connecting different players. So first of all, we have a physical location, which you see in my background as well, where you meet investors, startups, corporates for, of course, like professional meetings, but there is also a space with 4 restaurants. There is an event space, so people have a physical location to meet. So innovation is, let's say, built in this environment, which is fantastic, happening 24/7. What I would say on top of this, of course, again, this openness to innovation, to new products, to startups is fantastic. So Turin is well known for those later stage companies I mentioned, like Stellantis or Iren, who are willing to innovate. We are also very lucky to have a partnership with a so-called Turin City Lab, which is pretty unique in Europe. It's an initiative from the city itself. So not only the private sector is really innovating, but also the government is pushing very hard to innovate. So we are collaborating with Turin City Lab, which has roughly 80 partners attached, large companies. Those who I mentioned, Stellantis, Iren, Cisco, are partners who help companies piloting from very early stages on. So our companies who join us, they have also the possibility to work with those players pretty early on and getting access to, I would say, names and corporates that are not easy to access somewhere else.
Yeah, which is also interesting for entrepreneurs outside of Italy, outside of Turin, to look into if you're in specific areas of innovation, of course, right?
Absolutely. And like coming back to the questions, we have, of course, like a vertical. So we started with a smart mobility program based on the city history as well, based on the support we got from our partners, from the corporates, and evolved the program to the cities of the future, which is even closer and more aligned with the city direction. So we can help companies with autonomous roads. There are 35 kilometers in the city for autonomous driving. We have drone testing environment. We have robotic AI environments. And yeah, this is growing, right? So our companies who came to the program are from all over the world, not only from Italy, so from the US to Israel, Portugal, Norway, Ukraine, Poland, Hungary, Germany, all over the world. And of course, we are investing in international companies, but also for those who are really interested in tapping into an ecosystem that is very open and super supportive and very, very eager to work with innovative companies. Turin is a great place to be.
Yeah. And a key question, of course, always is, you know, how's the local talent pool look like? Especially in the verticals that you mentioned, right? A strong talent pool, of course, is essential in order for entrepreneurs to really leverage the ecosystem's value. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because in our Global Startup Ecosystem report, we actually found that the talent is quite amazing in Turin.
Yeah, I can copy that. I mean, it's not just amazing. I would say it's available, which makes a difference today, because again, it's available, and for startups, it's also still affordable, right? So I think when you look at London or Berlin with crazy prices nowadays for tech talent, especially, so Turin is still affordable. We have great universities across the street. We have Politecnico of Turin, which is graduating 5,000 students per year in different technology directions. Those people are eager and way more open than 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago to join a startup. Also, I think the culture is also changing. The mindset of people, they're not only interested in joining large companies and spend their 30 years, but they're also really willing to either start something or join companies. So it's available. Of course, people who work at large corporates and get in touch with startups. So we have great success stories where people started working with early stage companies out of their corporate and figured out, hey, this is alive. I could also imagine being part of, so we can also transition. So again, like all these initiatives from the government, from the city, but also the change of mindsets creates a great talent pool from universities to later stage companies who are creating talent, who are building talent, and people who have a couple of years of experience. So you get very junior people, but also senior people in the city.
I'm so glad you differentiate between the quality of talent and the availability of talent. Because oftentimes, you know, when research organizations, for example, look at the quality of talent, they're making a great point for the ecosystem, but maybe missing out on the fact that, you know, it's not always available to the entrepreneurs. So net, the entrepreneur is not supported in any kind of way, right? So I'm really glad to hear that not only the quality is high, but also there is available talent to the entrepreneurs. That's awesome. I wanted to talk a little bit about the challenges as well, especially in the current environment. You know, many of our listeners are wondering, you know, how do entrepreneurs currently navigate through the difficult macroeconomic environment, right? I'd love to hear from you. I mean, you mentioned that you just finished one of your cohorts. I'd love to hear how's it going? What are some of the challenges you're seeing at the moment? That's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to start with an optimistic view, I would say I'm pretty positive about the future. So it's my fourth crisis now. It was the .com in 2000, 2008, and COVID 2 years ago, where we actually launched and ran our first batch in Turin. So being in person for 5 weeks, and then COVID hit us pretty hard. So we moved the program as the first program at Techstars all over the world to a virtual one. Those companies did so well. I think the crisis is a bit different now. So yeah, you're right. We finished our recent class in April with a fantastic in-person demo day. So that was already a great step after 2 virtual programs. It's a turmoil. Yeah? So you probably see the news every week. There is a new fund announced. Germany announced Project A, 350 million. UK just announced a 500 million fund. France has announced Web3 funds, I think also 350 million. Italy is creating new funds. So there is still money available. I think what we see now, and I'm currently in the process of raising funds for a couple of companies. So investors are still deploying capital. That's the good news. They are, I think, even more open and eager to deploy capital at our stage, so early stage, than Series B or D. So if you look at Klarna, I think they just announced that they are raising at a 1.5 billion valuation, I think, and they were valued 8, or like just like a piece of the valuation they had before the crisis. So we still see investors deploying capital. We are in discussions. The due diligence and how investors look at companies has changed a bit. It came back to a level what we have seen before COVID. So people are really way more eager to understand the business, understand the dynamics, the economics, financials behind the company, the mission, the vision. So they really do a due diligence. We have seen in the past 2 years, I think, was not really sustainable. So people were throwing capital at almost every idea without really going into detail. So now investors are really more eager to understand the risk, find or build a model to profitability, understand if companies are really in the position to sell what they are building. Do they have customers? Are they able to generate revenues? So the due diligence process is a bit longer. For the moment being, we I would say are not see a big crash in super early stage. I think the summer is approaching now. It will be different probably in September. I'm very curious to see what happens in September. I mean, all those new funds will have to deploy their capital. So I don't think those who now raised and announced their funds publicly will stop investing, but I think they will be more selective and yeah, go deeper when they consider investing in companies.
Yeah, spot on. I mean, I read an article yesterday that said we're not in full crisis mode in the startup ecosystem. Things are just a little less crazy, right? And what you're saying is echoing that. I would say, right? I mean, great companies are going to make it through the crisis, and especially being part of a global network like Techstars is, of course, of essential importance. I would say supporting these companies will be extremely valuable from your part. I imagine.
Yeah, I can echo that. I mean, this is, I think, the beauty of the network or the support companies get from our partners, from mentors, from us. As we have seen it in 2020 during COVID, you have to be flexible, right? I think as an entrepreneur adapting, there is never this line up. It's always up and down. And again, like it's the fourth crisis now in the last 20 years, probably not the last one. You need to adapt. Keep your eyes open. Try not to do too many crazy things now, unless the market calms down a bit. Be cautious on your burn and potentially not going only for hyper growth now, but really reconsider your business model and ask for help. Go out to people, learn from different markets. I think every country now, every continent actually has different dynamics, right? Or of course connected, but yeah, this is, I think, the beauty why and how our companies are successful sustainably.
Yeah, totally. I mean, just to look at the ecosystem of Turin one more time, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. In this environment, how does the ecosystem have to come together, in your opinion, working with different entities and supporting the entrepreneurs? What do you see as one or two or three top priorities that we can share with the audience today?
Yeah, good question. The thing in ecosystem always consists of different players, right? So it's the founders, it's entrepreneurs with a big vision. It's talent, which again, as you said, it's available, but it's also the support of corporates and the city. So we have all the ingredients in Turin, right? I think we also have locations where we can bring them all together. I think one thing, because it's so fast, it's so innovative, and we bring every year 12 companies to Turin from all over the world with different ideas. They have to adapt. People have to connect and understand what they do, why they do it. So I think connecting and having this open mindset to really go and risk and go potentially beyond what you know to create great companies. I think the connection between the local players is already happening. Of course, it could be better. Also looking at early stage financing, which is a bit different of what we see in Series A or B, where you have KPIs set and you're not only investing in the team or mission or vision and make big bets. I think this is something which could improve in Italy, and I have to honestly say it already changed in the past 3 years. So we have great new funds coming up who are really addressing early stage funds, people who are okay to lose money as well. Yeah, startup is always very high risk, so we know that 9 out of 10 companies fail. So this is changing. I have to tell you as well, honestly, when I came to Turin, we spoke to people from funds. The mindset of investors was different. So they preferred to invest in later stage companies with KPIs, with business model, with balance sheets, with cash flow projections for the next 5 years. This is usually not existing at such an early stage, right? So it was very difficult to find follow-on funding for those companies. I would say not only in Turin, but all across Italy, this is changing now. So people are more willing to deploy capital at a stage where things are not figured out yet.
Yeah, great point. I'll echo that 100%. This is what we're seeing. But I mean, again, just to champion the development of the Turin ecosystem in the last couple of years and what I'm seeing in Italy, I mean, things are really starting to shape up and really developing towards a more mature ecosystem than we've seen the last couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, and I mean, like, I wouldn't call us pioneers, but we've been the first program in OGR that supported companies at the larger scale. We have now 11 accelerators. Just to give you an example, I don't want to drop names here because there are also some competitors of us, but that's great for the ecosystem, right? So also international players realize that Italy is a market with great opportunities. So they are entering from different countries, supporting in a similar way as we do, but we also have seen that out of these early stage companies, later stage funds were also built. The CDP, the government again, raised or announced and is deploying now a 2 billion euro fund to support entrepreneurs. We have seen corporates who are creating early stage funds. I think the connection also between the cities, there's always a competitive situation between Turin and Milan and of course Rome, is getting better. So people are really running in one direction. They want to create an ecosystem that is evolving and thriving. It doesn't matter if you're based in Napoli or Torino. So yeah, a great future ahead. I think again the connection of different local players, the mindset with international players combining now with local players who are also learning, also like we learn from them, of course, to adapt to the local ecosystem is great. And I think we have a bright future in the country.
Perfect, well said. And Martin, before we close out, I'd love to hear what's coming up for you in the next couple of months. What's on at Techstars Turin?
Yeah, so a lot of things are happening. So I think many exciting topics. We are now preparing the 4th program actually, which will be again with focus on cities of the future, which is a pretty sector agnostic and very broad term. So we are looking at early stage companies who are interested in joining us for the next program starting in February for 13 weeks. We are working heavily with our portfolio to really help them steer through this storm, hopefully a long storm. And yeah, very excited about the next program, which will be our 2nd in-person program in Turin. So very welcome to speak to founders who are interested in Techstars, who are interested in receiving funding, plus mentorship from 300 mentors globally, access to Turin City Lab, large corporate partners, like those who I mentioned in the beginning, Intesa, São Paulo Innovation Center, Compagnia, Fondazione CRT, who also provide us with a lot of mentors, access to local players, huge networks to other funds. And of course, we invest, we continue investing. I think it's a very important point. We are launching new programs with Techstars in new cities. So we continue betting on early stage companies. We continue investing with the same deal. So every company being accepted receives 120,000 USD. And we are looking now for 12 companies who are eager to join our program in Torino.
So that's a great call to action to all the entrepreneurs listening today. Lots of exciting opportunities to engage with the Turin ecosystem, to engage with Techstars, and to engage personally with you, Martin, as an entrepreneur who has been there, done that before. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you so much to all the listeners for tuning in. I hope this was a great introduction to the Turin ecosystem. Yeah, I hope to see you again soon. Thank you, Martin. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.